is Talk Radio.
Keeping you up to date across the UK, online, on DAB+, and on the Talk Radio app.
Julia Hartley-Brewer at breakfast on Talk Radio.
Good morning to you. This is Talk Radio Breakfast with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer, live from Labour Party conference in Brighton. Don't forget, we are the fastest growing radio station on the planet. And we are now on your TV. Download the Talk Radio TV app or go to talkradio.tv for details on how to watch. And you get to see our fabulous Talk Radio set here at Labour conference. Well, let's talk to my next guest now regarding all things political with Brendan Clarke-Smith. He's a Conservative MP. Good morning to you, Brendan.
Morning, Julia. Thank you for having me on today.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining me. I do want to talk to you about a lot of different things, but first up, a tweet that you posted yesterday regarding the words of Keir Starmer, who was asked on television yesterday, is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix? To which he replied, it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. You're of the view, though, that it is something that very much should be said.
Yeah, and I find this really bizarre. I tweeted something yesterday, which to me is just a statement of a basic fact. And people are saying, oh, thank you for standing up for this. And I just find it strange, really, that Keir Starmer can't admit, yes, only women do have cervixes. And there's the point of women-only spaces and so on. You look at the appalling abuse Rosie Duffield has had. Why can't people stand up to that? Isn't that just the right thing to do?
Do you think this is a big dividing line between the Tories and the Labour Party, and indeed actually the Liberal Democrats? Lib Dem leader Ed Davies got himself tied up in knots on this issue as well.
Well, and this is the strange thing, Julia, because nobody said that you can't respect people for the way they want to live their lives and so on, and we're a very tolerant society, and people can live however they wish. But at the same time, this is a basic statement of women's rights. And I don't see why it should necessarily be a party political issue even. The fact that I think what the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats have done is pandered to this kind of woke Twitter mob, who generally a very extreme minority of people. And I'm getting support from groups I never thought I'd get before. I don't particularly see myself as a feminist icon or anything like that, just for stating, basic facts.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is strange when you just think, oh, I'm being very brave stating something that was in all our biology textbooks when we would, in the first couple of years of secondary school. I must ask you also whether, after what Deputy Leader Angela Rayner had to say, whether you are scum, homophobic, racist, misogynistic, Etonian scum. Are you, Brendan?
Well, I've certainly never been to Eton, and I wouldn't like to be called the other things there. I mean, I don't really think we need to use that language about each other. And as you said, Angela Rayner in the past has criticised rhetoric that people have used to describe each other. And really, I think when you're the deputy leader of the Labour Party and even filling in PMQs and so on, it's probably unbecoming of somebody in that position. But what I say about my opponents, I don't particularly like their views. My whole career has been campaigning against that. I don't think they're scum. I just think they're wrong.
Can we talk about where we are, though, with your own government? You're MP for Bassetlaw in Nottinghamshire. You describe yourself as king of the red wool on your Twitter feed. How well is it going down in the red wool seats of this great country that the government is having to talk about calling in the army to supply petrol so people can get to and from work?
I think it's got to the stage where it's like the toilet rolls thing all over again, really. We said that there wasn't actually any shortage. I think one of the major petrol stations, they were saying out of the 1,000 plus garages that got it affected about 50 of them. And then we've had this kind of ridiculous mainstream media panic that's been caused. We've seen people panic buying, going out, queuing at petrol stations. It's kind of gone back to normal where I am now. It's taken a bit of a while. I filled up about a third of my wife's tank yesterday. She's a doctor. She's got to do home visits and so on. So I wasn't greedy with it. But seeing people filling up jerry cans and all of this, and this is just hysteria that's been caused, really, and it's a shame. But there's a backlog. There are less drivers. Yes, I think there's a bit of an issue with the DVLA as well, so that needs sorting out. But army in the short term, yes. But I don't think it's a major problem. But I think it's just been caused by panic buying.
Well, it's not panic buying if people do need to have petrol to get to and from work or visit family, whatever it is they do. Most people rely on their cars to get about their daily lives. But even if you're filling up a jerry can, if you need a lot of petrol and you're not sure you're going to be able to buy it again, that's a perfectly rational, sensible thing to do. People were put into that position. I mean, when you say, we need only 50 out of 1,000 forecourts, well, if those 50 happen to be in your local area, if even it's your local petrol station and the rest of them, the next petrol station is 10 miles away, that is an issue.
Yeah, and people want to get to work. I mean, my car's on the red light or the amber light this morning, so I've got to sort of run the gauntlet myself and hope that the petrol station's got enough diesel for me. But at the same time, I understand why people need to do that. But at the same time, I think some of it has been a little bit over the top. And again, I'd go back to the toilet roll situation. We never had a shortage of toilet rolls, but if everybody goes in at once to buy it, then that's what's causing some of the problem.
Well, I mean, let's also talk though about how we got here, because again and again we've got so many people and organisations involved in the business, whether it's the poultry farmers, whether it's the petrol station, was HGV drivers, haulage associations, everybody. They've all been saying, and they said they've been saying for months, that there was this problem. And a lot of this problem is created by the government. So lockdown policy that meant people went back home to Eastern Europe who were drivers here, people not being able to get their driving licences to drive HGV vehicles. All of this was entirely down to government policy. They were warned about it and they didn't take action, and they're only taking action now. Now there's a crisis. This is an abject failure in terms of just basic management of the country by this government, isn't it?
I wouldn't say that, Julia. I mean, I know some people are trying to blame it on Brexit as well. But
we're drafting in the army to supply petrol for people, and you think that's not an abject failure? What would success look like?
Well, I think also, there's an underlying issue there with wages that's happened. I mean, we've suddenly had this situation where we've had a cheap flow of labour that's been around for many, many years. We're obviously transitioning now where we want the point where people can actually earn a decent salary. We've had a week where we've been talking about universal credit and so on, and people have been saying that needs increasing, but at the same time, we've got 1 million jobs free. So I think there's a bit of almost sort of realigning in society that's going on there. And yes, I do take the point that it's, occasionally you're going to run into some bumps along the road. I think COVID has exacerbated that. But at the same time, if you want more truck drivers, then pay them a decent wage. And a lot of truck drivers have been saying that the conditions have not been what they've wanted for a number of years now. And as I say, it's market economy. If you pay people more wages, they will want to do it.
All right, well, we shall wait and see if that does work. Brendan Clarke-Smith, Conservative MP there for Bassetlaw, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Just bring in comedian Steve Allen.